Now let's jump into the practical part. We are finally ready to configure our invoicing on the customer class. This is a new customer class. So first of all, we go to Finances, Invoicing, and Activate Invoicing. By default, the toggle is deactivated. To use regular invoices, to use out of turn invoices, the first thing we have to do is to activate the toggle. Okay, now we have all the options available and we need to choose the invoice template. Okay, so let's choose our iPass new invoice template. Generate invoice PDF at the end of the billing period. This is just like we want it. Let's leave it at that. Send the invoice via email. Let's set it to automatically, meaning that the invoice will be sent to the customer after it's been generated. We have quite a few configuration parameters here for the invoices. Let's look at those that we've already discussed in this chapter. These are the most important ones. We will look at some other ones in later chapters. Okay, so first let's set our grace period. Grace period is usually set to 30 days. It's very common, but of course this can vary depending on your business needs. Then we can set the reminders. Reminders to the customer that the invoice due date is coming up. Let's say 5 and 3 days in advance. We entered it in a comma separated format. Okay, let's skip this part and go to our suspension date. Suspension date is calculated after the due date. Remember, the due date is our invoice generation date plus our grace period. So if we set the due date, so if we say that we want to suspend our customer 7 days after the due date, it will be 37 days after the invoice generation date. Okay, and we can also notify the customer about the suspension. A reactivation fee may apply in case the reactivation of the service requires additional engineering resources. Okay, we're not going to set a reactivation fee in this case. And our last date is the termination date. It is set as a number of days after the due date. Let's say that 60 days after the due date, we no longer expect the customer to post a payment and we want to delete the customer from our system. They will no longer have the possibility to reactivate the services, and we want to notify the customer 5 days in advance. Okay, let's click save. And let's do the same for our out of turn invoices. Let's activate the toggle. Choose the iPass new invoice template. Let's choose the same one. Let's send our invoices automatically to the customer as well. And let's copy the configurations from the regular invoices. So our due date was 30 days after the invoice generation. So the grace period is 30. Our customer suspension is after 7 days. And the termination is after 60 days. Let's not configure the reminders here. Okay. And now we are ready to click save. Our regular invoices and our out of turn invoices are now correctly configured on the customer class.